Ladies and gentlemen, I am blessed to be joined today by the one, the only production legend, Cobra Venom. Welcome, man. Thank you so much for joining me.
Glad to finally make it. I think we've had to reschedule this like 5 times or
It's
so by now. It's a whole bunch of life stuff up and down, but we finally made it.
yeah,
Thank you for the
it's
invitation.
it's been in the works for some time, but I've been, just stewing over the ideas and, think of all the stuff that I wanted to talk to you about. I feel like it really is a perfect time to do an interview with you and to talk to you because I feel like you have had this amazing rise with what you're doing, and to me I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, this guy's not done yet, not even close. So to me it feels like, oh, this is like a fantastic point in time. But before I get us too deep here, why don't you describe, who you are and what you do before I poison you with my own kind of notions about that?
Um, how much of that do you want?
As much as you want to give.
Because there's like, do you want to do just like StarCraft or like what I do in general professionally or all of it above?
Yeah, let's do
Uh,
all of it. We can start with the
let's
StarCraft and let's talk about all of the professional stuff.
um, I guess it makes sense to do chronologically and end with StarCraft. I used to be a systems administrator for a medical billing company, and I was basically IT and IT server support stuff for a number of years. And then I was helping various streamers here and there, and then I ended up uh, starting production with the Pylon show. Jeff needed help with his stream here and there often, and they were trying to get the Pylon show started. They were trying to start a StarCraft 2 talk show in general,
Hmm.
and I was helping him so much here and there that Artosis and Dan were trying to find a way to make the StarCraft talk show
Hmm.
happen, and funding from Blizzard and everything fell through because it was very complicated with trying to get approval for all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, fuck it, we'll just do it ourselves. And so they started in on this, and Jeff was like, hey, do you want to do the production for this? So we did a pilot episode, and then we're off to the races. I think it's like 3 years. I've been doing that so far.
Amazing,
Over
man.
the last 3 years, I've slowly transferred over from full-time IT to consulting and part-time IT, and then doing production stuff on the side. And production's become like the big thing that I do now. I've helped with various different podcasts. Um, there are some internal things that I do that never get published publicly on the internet or behind various paywalls. Um, Helping people with internal training. They sometimes
Mm.
want like over the top production stuff with training employees for various things. There was a point in time where I was in talks with a production company to help with things like Visa and MasterCard having internal uh, calls and summits and stuff like that, and then those would get published out. I
Hmm.
have like hardware enough to run, I think, 3 or 4 continuous streams live all at one time. Um,
Wow.
it's fun to do. I make a little bit less money now, but I have a way better time. I have more fun doing this. So this is what I'd like to continue doing for a while if I could.
Hmm. Yeah, man, that's awesome. And I love that you kind of you gave us almost like the preview of the journey because oh, I'm so ready to deep dive into all this goodness. So okay, so I'm gonna rewind us right now back and really drill down. So you start off and kind of like this meteoric rise that is, I don't have to do my old job anymore. Now I'm doing production stuff full time. This all kind of starts with Jeff with In Control kind of saying, hey man, help me out with my stream. And you're kind of doing that.
For the StarCraft people, that kind of makes sense. In reality, I was also doing some production stuff for um, EMS training for
Okay.
like employees of theirs, where they would
Mm.
go out and go on the trucks or the ambulances and do stuff like that. So I had like a little bit basis of
Oh.
understanding and doing like digital production of that stuff before I jumped in with Jeff. But
Okay,
yes,
okay. So it's like you kind of built up this skill set, and then he hits you up and he's like, "Hey, I know you know how to do this. I don't know as much about how to do this, but I know that I need some backup, and so you're gonna help me," kind of thing. Is that how it went down?
right,
Okay,
kind of,
okay,
yeah,
sweet.
pretty much it.
So you guys are buddies prior to that happening then, or you just know each other on the internet?
Um, Before that point in time, I think I was just like stream manager in various forums for like I don't know, 2 or 3 years. It's
Okay.
kind of hard to tell because it was like a little bit of help here, a little bit of help there, and then
Uh-huh.
wait, he's paying me as like a head mod to help him with this sponsored stream or do this or do that, and it was just
Yeah,
it kind
yeah.
of morphed over time.
Okay, so
So
one
it
thing
was a
led to
little bit of
another.
while before that for sure.
Interesting. Okay, so did the two of you initially meet by you just hanging out in his chat and moderating for him, or where did you initially where did that relationship start?
Um, I would say yeah, that's how he became aware of me. Yes,
Okay,
I was
okay.
a fan of his for like a long time before
Sure.
that, like just in TV days.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Oh, that's so cool, man. So, okay, so and before anything ever happened with the pylon, you were doing stuff with sort of, okay, I've got this big sponsored stream, make sure everything goes smooth, I need this setup, I need that setup. At some point though, on that journey, you're like helping him figure out where in his house to put cameras to be able to stream Warhammer. And I know this because you and
Yeah.
I have talked about that setup before. Um so how did that conversation happen? Did he just hit you up and say like, "Hey man, I have this crazy idea and I know that you can help me figure it out"? Like what was that like?
So we were trying to figure out like number one, he wanted a new computer, and
Uh-huh.
uh, we were talking about this, and he wanted me to build him a new computer, but he also wanted to stream Warhammer at some point, and so we were trying to figure out how to get all the stuff from a Warhammer stream, like setting up the tabletop, all the cameras everywhere. I mounted a camera on his ceiling and everything later on, but trying to figure out how to get that into one PC, and it turns out it's probably easier if we just like use two different PCs. Okay, we'll use
Mm.
his old PC to just run the Warhammer stuff. So we set up a table beside the Warhammer table and ended up running everything that was related to the Warhammer stream there.
Mm-hmm.
Worked out pretty well. And then I actually built the computer and then flew out with it and then set up. So we did like a whole bunch of things at once. I went
Yeah.
out for like a week and like set up the new computer, soundproofed a corner of it.
I just lost audio on you, Cobra.
I said, okay, we're gonna put a camera in the ceiling. It was like a nice heavy camera. Like it was pretty substantial. Mounted out on the ceiling, put webcams and various cameras, various places, and away we went. It was kind of fun to do that. They got a couple good streams out of doing that, and I think they'd have done quite a bit more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have been a Warhammer guy for some time, but I was never a big 40K person. But when I saw him doing 40K streams, I was like, okay, this is Twitch and it's Warhammer. I'm into this. Cobra, chat's saying your audio's desynced, and I did have it cut out on me briefly. We can demonstrate some production stuff live in the interview, I suppose. Am I not meant to have audio routing through Discord? Should I just be using vMix?
No, the vMix link has everything muted. Audio might be a little
Yeah.
bit faster than the video, in which case you could
Interesting.
select in OBS, add a delay of like, guessing maybe 100, 150 milliseconds on each audio source might
Mm-hmm.
fix the problem.
Okay. I'll give that a whirl. Chat is now saying that Twitch has been acting weird all evening, so it might not be us. Although we did, because it's Cobra, right? We thought, oh, let's tinker with the OBS settings a little bit before we go live.
Maybe.
All right, so that's advanced audio properties, and then you said 150 milliseconds?
Yeah, about that. That should work.
All right, we'll give that a whirl. Chat, let us know if that's any better. Okay, cool. So you do this sort of whirlwind trip. You build a computer, you fly out with a computer, hang out at In Control's house for a week, set up a bunch of stuff. You get this this like whole setup for Warhammer streaming. Oh, I was talking about that pulling me in and how big I think that would have been, right? Because I know how the Warhammer scene is, particularly the 40K scene, but really all of it. And it's very much like StarCraft, where it's like these people like this game and they're not going anywhere. Like there might be a new edition, there might be new rules that come out or whatnot, but like they love their game, right? And to be like the guy that's doing it on Twitch, like I've seen people do paint streams, like hobby streams and stuff, but I haven't seen anybody be like, I'm going to do a high production value, really freaking good stream of gameplay. And then you couple that with the fact that he's already like a big personality. Like, holy shit. I mean, that like and not to even say that it didn't do it, but like to me, it's just such a game changing thing. So yeah, I agree. Like that would definitely have blown up even more than it did.
As far as I can tell, this is probably okay for me to say this.
Sure.
Jeff was actually in talks with some, I'll just say, developers about Warhammer 40K, and there was about to be a whole bunch of other big stuff going on now that they had that all set up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But those just, they were kind of finally finalized, but they never saw fruition because time ran out. But yeah, the Frontline Gaming guys have the best shot at continuing to do something along that way. The two people that run Frontline Gaming are Frankie and Reese, Frontline Gaming, and they have a couple of office computers that I've built for them, and I'm actually building another one for them that's going in one of their homes too. So we'll see what happens with that.
Interesting.
They seem to be quite pleased with the PCs that I built for them so far. I should probably post pictures of those somewhere there. They're like all Warhammer themed. So like when you when they start up the computer, the lock screen, the wallpaper, they're all themed with the guys, whoever it is. It's their favorite faction. And then all the RGB lights have a pattern to them and accents. And it's like, I did pretty well with it, I think.
Oh, that's so cool, man. So I mean, it seems like you kind of, you have this thing where it's like, I can do a bit of everything. Have you kind of always been that way throughout your life, where it's just like, oh yeah, I could probably figure that out, and then you just kind of like learn it?
Yeah, especially if I need to do something, I would rather figure out how to do it and do it myself. Like, it's how I like became decent at. Like I only had a very basic education in college for IT stuff, and then I became quite successful in the medical industry doing that, which I wasn't technically trained for, but you just learn it as you go. And it yeah, I've been a jack of all trades, but I hate the saying jack of all trades, master of none, because sometimes you can become, I wouldn't say all trades, because it's like one at a time. You get good enough at one, and then you're like, okay, I can do this easily. What's the next challenge for me? And so you can master it to some degree. There's not like not quite master as in like the 10,000 hours I'm the number one in the world with it, but like, you know, I can do just about anything I need to do for myself when it comes to building a computer, running a server, hosting email clients, whatever the situation is, building a studio, sure, easy. Like all that stuff is second nature to me. So now I look for a new challenge, something else to add to my skill set. So yeah, I've kind of always been that way. When I was like 8 or 9, maybe, I learned how to do my own Ethernet cables with the crimper and get them in a specific order and like what's the difference between a crossover and a regular, like what order the wires have to be in. Like it's just, yeah, I guess my whole life. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And I mean, it's cool that like that has turned into, you know, what you're able to kind of do for a living, even beyond like, I mean, you're getting paid to do, you know, sort of sysadmin stuff before, which is like cool, but a whole other level of cool is now I'm just doing stuff with like the nerd things that I care about, right? Like I'm, you know, I'm working with like, you know, these sort of, you know, tabletop gaming dudes, and I'm working with, I mean, you've done some pretty big high tier jobs within StarCraft as well. I mean, I'm thinking of things like,
Yeah.
being hired to work at BlizzCon. I'm thinking about, running production at major tournaments.
Yeah,
Like,
we've hosted 2 shows, I think. Yeah.
yeah,
Helped at
like,
DreamHack here and there.
what was that like when you heard that you were going to do that for the first time?
Um, a lot of adrenaline and excitement about, oh boy, this is going to be quite fun.
Uh-huh.
BlizzCons, I think, are the might be the easiest because they give
Really?
you so long to prepare for everything, even
Mm.
though it's like the process is quite complex. For like the last BlizzCon, I'm actually running production out in a truck outside BlizzCon, out in the back, way behind the Anaheim Convention Center, and then I can literally walk to the stage where Artosis and his guests, I think it was Monk at the time, all of them are actually there. So like I was standing on stage before they off to the sides before they were there, had everything set up. We did this. There's like so many things. Like we go to BlizzCon ahead of time. We have
Mhm.
rehearsals. We test stuff, and then before the venue opens the very first day, I'm inside there like testing, making sure everything's good to go. They have all the needed assets, all the stuff like that. And then the day of, we get there 2 or 3 hours before the convention center opens and we get set up because we have one right in the morning. And
Mm-hmm.
then it just goes off without a hitch and it was fantastic. Like all the last one for the videos that TLO was showing with Alpha Star, I actually
Yeah.
helped TLO render some of those out and get them into the show deck. So it was quite fun. There's a lot of challenges involved with it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a good learning experience.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you've kind of talked in the past. I think it might have been the big like anniversary show. I remember there was definitely a pylon show where you talked about sort of your background in StarCraft, but maybe it's good, just to make this interview sort of comprehensive to kind of dive into that a little bit. So, as I
Sure.
understand it, you kind of played for a time and then sort of transitioned more into this role where you're doing more behind the scenes stuff and more just kind of like fan stuff and watching. Is that kind of about right?
In terms of playing, I guess I should back up to understand this a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with like my like games I've played over the years, over the past couple
Mm.
decades, because that makes
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more sense with the
Okay. Yeah.
timeline. I
Totally.
started with like Call of Duty and Crisis Wars a very long time ago, like when I was early teens, and then um, I I didn't actually like it's a whole side rant about why I got into StarCraft and like how it helped me mentally and has helped shape who I am today
Mm.
by training me with resource management, time management, stuff like that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I had
Mm-hmm.
a stint in RTS games, and it started when I Wings of Liberty launch day. I got the game on the day of launch. My dad and I went to the store, picked it up, right? It's the classic story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Played it at a low rank, and then over the years, I went back and forth between first-person shooters and StarCraft, and
Mm-hmm.
occasionally other RTS games. But I've always been a super competitive person, so much so that it kind of sometimes has taken the fun out of games. So much
Mm.
so that when I was competing in StarCraft, um, I ended up going to a DreamHack. I got to I was steadily over the years getting higher and higher on the ladder, right? And I got to
Mm-hmm.
Masters, and I went to a DreamHack that was in DreamHack Atlanta, and Nina was the person I actually ended up playing on stage
Mm-hmm.
at a DreamHack, and it was Todd and Roddy that cast the stage match. And it was like a lot of fun. I think Huck was there also, E.G. Huck,
Mm-hmm.
Desro, like a whole bunch of old classic names
Yeah.
were there, and it was a lot of fun. But I realized I made the games like there was not a chance I was going to win that.
Mm.
I'm playing against people that are like playing a lot more than I am, but I went for the experience. It was like one of the best experiences I've ever had, especially
Yeah.
competitive, being on stage like that. And then from there, it's like, well, I made the games close enough, but in order to like get to the next level, in order to get Grandmaster, go to pro,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough time between at the time I was still like trying to finish out some schooling stuff and working full time. And it's like you just don't have enough time in your day to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I like kind of took a back seat with StarCraft and only played it occasionally for fun. This was right about the time the Widowmine came out, and I was playing back and forth between Zerg and Protoss, and every time this was back when this was the old Widowmines where they like almost they hit cloak upon like instant burrow. Like
Right.
this was before they got like actually patched to be like decent, right?
Uh-huh.
They were just very annoying to deal with, and I was like, no, it's like maybe I don't really want to. I just kind of frustrated with these Widowmines. I'm just gonna, yeah, no, I'm gonna take a break from this. And then I started playing Counter-Strike again. I'd been playing Counter-Strike on and off for years. I think over the past 2 decades, I've probably played about across all the accounts, across everything like that, all the various platforms, I've played maybe 20,000 hours of Counter-Strike. So
Oh, wow.
I got to the point where it was a lot of fun, and I was a primary opper mostly, and I got invited to an ESEA team, and then at ESEA when you're playing, you top around a little bit between various different teams trying to find the right match or niche of players. There's a lot of people that aren't very competitive or don't take it seriously, or they start losing and they get too toxic. They can't maintain a positive mental attitude or just an attitude at all, and it just like drains everything from the team. So I finally found a team that was like decent enough that didn't get too much like that, and I think I ended up being like we got through open, intermediate. I think we got to play a couple of advanced matches. Then we went to a couple LANs, flew down to Florida, competed on a couple of different teams that way. And at LAN, the hardest part was I was the only one that was performing, and the team like had stage fright or just they were playing on a LAN. We have 5 millisecond ping. It's like beautiful. It's like butter.
Right.
Like all my op shots hit. I don't have to aim ahead of them a little bit to try to like it just snap. You're dead. Like it's the best thing. It's the best thing on earth. The team wasn't really performing. They were just, and I was like, I don't know that I have the time to practice this 8 hours again. We're competing against teams that are cracked, as in like a Counter-Strike version of cracked is like you're nuts or very, very good. And I was maybe I don't want to play this very long. Like I got to a high enough level that matchmaking is a very low tick rate. So you're playing on ESEA or Face It or at the time CEVO. And so competitively, I get to a high enough point and I'm like, yeah, in order to get to the next rank up, it's a very, very big commitment. At that point, it's almost like it's not a fun game anymore. Right. So now I just play Counter-Strike for fun occasionally, maybe once a month for 2 or 3 games, if that. So kind of rare. For StarCraft, haven't really played seriously in more than like a game here or there. Roddy talked me into one after a pylon show, stuff like that. But it's not really something I really should get back into it. But I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. No, I think that that makes a lot of sense. In particular for me, that story really resonates because my sort of life arc has very much followed that sort of narrative you outlined, right? Where I kind of have that sort of jack of all trades thing that you do as well, where it's like, oh, but like there's so many interesting things in the world, and I got to know a little bit about all of them, right? I gotta dive into these,
or at least
things.
The ones that are interesting or call to me, right?
Yeah, totally. So there's kind of that thing which creates like a time pressure and an attention pressure. And then there's this other thing you're talking about where it's like, the higher and higher and higher up you climb in the echelon of like, being really good at something, the amount of commitment goes up exponentially as well, right? And you get to this thing where it's like, I'm almost at the base camp of like pretty good at this thing, and I can see the peak and I can see how hard it is to get there and the time commitment to get there. And you just kind of look at it and you go, nah, I'm going to go to that other mountain. Right. And so like for me, that really resonated because it's like, there's a pain there too, right? Like it sounds like in your story, it's like you get kind of pissed off by something happening and then you're just like, I'm out. But for me, it's almost like,
not really. That was just a
Okay.
small factor. I'm just like more
Okay.
memeing
Okay.
about the widow mines. But if I like,
Sure.
if I dive into something, I have enough stick to itiveness that I'm like a what's the most aggressive dog with a bone you've ever seen that never lets go of it? Like it's usually like a level of like I don't want to do that for 8 hours a day type of situation more than
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
small thing comes up. Just to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
clear
yeah.
with it.
Okay, okay, okay. So it might be like there might be something that's kind of grinding on you, but the main thing is just I'm not going to commit my time in this way.
I'm not going to commit my entire life to something. Is basically what I
Mhm.
is usually
Mhm.
what turns me to another direction.
Yep. Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. Yeah, so for me, like that moment, I've come to that moment with a few things. Probably most notably Magic the Gathering. Um, and it's always for me this kind of sad thing where I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm gonna go do something else. Like, and it's like only because you're like, I think I probably could do the like super hyper good version of this, but I just don't think it's worth it. Right? It's like I could go do this other thing and get pretty good at that too, or try out a couple of things, or I could really like grind for this, number 10 slot kind of thing. And I don't know if I'll be the number 10 slot or
Hmm.
the number 20 or whatever it is. It's like, oh, I don't know that that's worth it. Like, that's just such an interesting dynamic. And you're one of the first people I've ever talked to who has articulated that. And that's kind of been rattling around inside of me. So I'm really glad to hear you sort of say that because I know that it's like, that is a real dynamic that exists. Um, so okay. You're in this mode now where you've kind of done this a couple of times. Do you see yourself, continuing to pursue new competitive outlets? Is doing production work the competitive outlet? Like, do you not as much need that anymore? Where do you kind of lie on that?
Um, I think my for the entire rest of my life, I'll always be chasing the competitive drive, a performance aspect, a in the
Mm-hmm.
zone, adrenaline's pumping, you're on the
Yeah.
clock. Like, you remember that old like transform, like not the new Transformers with Megan Fox and what's his face in Lincoln Park. I'm talking like the old Transformers had a theme song that was like by Bush or whatever. And it had a lyric that goes something like "best when under pressure," and it kind of like it had other lyrics part, but that kind of
Mm-hmm.
explains like how I like to perform. I like
Mm-hmm.
the feeling of you're in the driver's seat, you're the pilot, you're driving. Like as a kid, being a pilot was kind of an alluring prospect to be because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're in control of a lot of stuff and you get to
Yeah.
make a lot of decisions and it's a high performance zone thing. If you talk to athletes or people that perform in the NFL or a lot of disciplines, when they're in that competitive zone, when they're in that performance mode, that's like the
Mm-hmm.
best feeling of life.
Yeah.
So I kind of tend to chase that in various different aspects. Like my leisure recreational thing right now has been going to rock climbing with the Frost Giant team because they're like 15 minutes away. So we go to
Yeah.
a place and go rock climbing together, and that's been my workout, but also like my competitive outlet recently in physical matter, stay fit and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Production definitely does hit that because like you can prepare and everything can go smoothly, but you're also dynamic. They went to this topic. You didn't prepare for that at all. Let's go
Yep.
grab an aspect. Let's go grab an asset, a website, throw that up on screen. Like snap, 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 have everything good to
Yeah.
go, ready. Like that. It definitely hits that niche a little bit. As for gaming, I don't know that I'll ever try to be a competitive gamer because when I
Mm-hmm.
look at it, the people who actually compete, the people who play Overwatch professionally,
Mm-hmm.
I can get to a high rank in Overwatch. But when I look at what they get paid versus being a
Mm.
streamer of Overwatch,
Yep.
the streamers get paid way more than a pro. If you're a
Yep.
content creator, like a heavy content creator, not just a streamer, you're publishing it to
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, you're doing all this stuff afterwards, they get paid way more than the streamers and the pros.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you could also stream a game and be super competitive with it at a high rank.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I want to become a professional at maybe at one point in time, Counter Strike was a thing I considered doing that for, but I don't necessarily think I want to pursue a professional gaming career. No. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be a little bit of mix of what keeps it interesting and what keeps it challenging. Right now, it's been Apex Legends for my recreational time of
Mhm.
um, getting better at a super fast moving game. Counter Strike is very different from Apex Legends in that I only have to have the 60 or so degrees in front of me, as in
Mhm.
360, 60
Yeah,
degrees.
yeah.
So it's a low DPI. So I've all my life I've been a low DPI user. Kind of hurt me a little bit in
Ah.
StarCraft, but sure. So now I'm like trying to transition into being better at a little bit. I can do a 360 decently and still hit a sniper shot. That's kind of hard with
Mhm.
a sentinel versus an op because you're playing at different sensitivities there.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I think I'll always have a competitive push in recreational stuff as well as work stuff. I'll always be chasing that.
Mhm.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So another thing that I think is an interesting thread to pull here is the sort of different genres thing. So you've, been at least competitively minded, right? Like even if you want to be humble and be like, yeah, I went to the StarCraft tournament and everybody was better than me. Like you kind of set the story up that way, right? But like you were competitive
I
at the game.
generally tend to be a humble guy, so yeah.
um,
I was
you know,
decent. Yeah, I'll say it.
yeah,
It's
you're
fine.
you're good at these two genres, right? And so I always think that it's really fascinating to talk to people who have done that, right? Because not everyone does. There are people who are just like, I play card games or I play FPS or whatever it is. What did you notice that was kind of consistent across these different domains, and what things were like wildly different or like, just things didn't even apply the same?
Um, let's compare like Counter Strike people with like StarCraft people.
Okay.
Specifically in terms of like social interaction with people and like having a
Mm.
team mindset and being like when you listen to a football team talk or listen to like a soccer team talk, they're very much about like, okay, here's how we can make the team better. Do this, do the
Mm.
thing. Let's help
Mm-hmm.
this team player make that decision better. StarCraft is extremely rewarding because you're the only one at fault, but you're also alone. Like you don't have like,
Mm-hmm.
sure, yes, there are teams. Team Liquid's a huge team. Yes, you can practice with the other people, but when you're in that performance mode,
Right.
there's nobody that's in your ear that's also in the performance mode. When I'm playing Counter
Mm-hmm.
Strike, I'm yelling. I'm yelling where I've shot somebody. I'm yelling to go do something. I'm calling for a flash. I'm throwing a smoke for my teammate. I'm like backing up this person. There's a very much social dynamic aspect to a competitive game that pulls me more than like the StarCraft uh, experience where it's just a 1v1 experience.
Mm-hmm.
There's a competitive kinda ish thing within RTS games with 2v2 and 3v3, but that's not how the game ended up being played for the most part for most
Yeah.
people.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy watching StarCraft. I enjoy playing it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big adrenaline rush, but I do want a social interaction that
Mm-hmm.
is fun and is with other people that are also striving or pushing toward a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a good thing that I want to pursue. Most of the people that I practice Counter Strike with over the years have been like very competitive minded, and you get to feed off of them. You get to inspire them, they inspire you. Yes, there's also times when they're toxic or a-holes or, you know, drag you down too. But for the most part, you can pick and choose who you play with, and you can pick and choose to play with people who are wholesome or uplifting or to some degree at least, and
Mm-hmm.
or at least neutral. Uh, and it's a good competitive fun experience to push each other to have like a iron sharpens iron type of deal, right?
Yeah.
With StarCraft, there's less so of that because there's no team aspect to it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I desire to have. It's something
Mm-hmm.
that's a goal. Um, yeah, does that answer the question?
Yeah,
If when
yeah,
I'm
it
practicing
definitely
with StarCraft
does.
people, they just want to grind out 20 matches together or something. That's their version of practice, but
Right.
usually they're not in comms talking together. When
Mm-hmm.
Neuro and Sal did that, that was some of the best StarCraft content I've seen. Because
Oh,
yes,
it's
they're like
fantastic.
playing with each other, but they're also in a call talking with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Can we have professionals yell at each other while they're playing the match? Is that a thing? Like I would watch
Yeah.
that way sooner than I'll watch, other matches. Like I
Yeah. The only thing is parting would win all of it, right? Like almost
yeah.
you'd have to, I think.
Is that such a bad thing?
Yes. That
How, how
we could do worse than that.
people like MC would like excel at this? Like
Oh yeah, MC would be back in the
I
game
think
in a
there's a
heartbeat.
I think there's a weird thing where I don't want to get myself canceled immediately, but I think there's a weird thing where any form of like banter or taunting
Mm,
your teammate is seen as toxic. Well,
yeah.
it's like, okay, but like we're super competitive people.
Mm.
There was, I think, a point in time where if you said anything other than GHLF, or I'm butchering everything now, but
GLH,
if you said
we
more
got
than
you.
like that and GG at the end of it, like that was considered against the rules. Like you couldn't
Mm-hmm.
talk to your teammate too
Right.
much or talk to your opponent too much. Okay, sure. We're super PC, we're clean. We got sponsors because of that. Is your
Mm-hmm.
sport growing? Did you like
Right.
succeed? That's not the whole reason. I can't pin it on that. But like
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the reasons why I think a lot of people are playing battle royales and
Mm.
things like Dota or League of Legends. League of Legends is a weird thing because all of it seems to be toxic. There doesn't seem
Yeah.
to be any wholesome interaction ever. But
Right.
when you see people play Dota in a team call, sometimes they're having a lot of fun together. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
enjoying something. Dota is one of those things that seems to be something I should probably pursue at some point, but
Mm-hmm.
who knows? It's like a
Right.
big jump, and I seem to have uh, much more natural skill towards a first-person shooter reflex type game. So
Mm-hmm.
who knows?
Yeah, yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I think this is an interesting topic. The whole idea of like, how much does that sort of like having a little bit of an edge help sell a game, right? Because it's one thing to say, we want to avoid going to this toxic place that League has gone to. And I think most of us agree, even the League players probably agree.
Especially most of the league players I know.
Yeah, like they don't want for it to be that, and they don't think it's a good thing, right? At the same time, we have this sort of like, let's all pretend we're, playing chess in suits in high society kind of thing that StarCraft has. And like, I'm as guilty of this as the next guy. Like, I do have this thing in my head where I'm like, well, the rules are the rules, and this is how we conduct ourselves. Don't you dare type a question mark at me, sir. Like, I do have a little bit of that. And at the same time, I can step back, when somebody points it out, like you just did, and say, yeah, maybe it doesn't need to be that extreme. Like we can be about growth and we can be about whatever, but then also kind of have the narratives that emerge from letting people kind of do a little bit more than that, right? So yeah, I don't know how to arrive at like where we need to be, but I would be interested to see like if that culture could shift, because you see it in the FPS community, you see it in the fighting game community where sometimes it's ugly, yeah, and sometimes it's toxic, but there are also these like rivalries and stuff that will emerge, and like stories come out of it in a way that's really engaging, right? Like you might not like the person, but boy, are you interested when the player you do like is up against them, and it's a tense match, and it goes to like the last map or whatever it is. Like that is fun, man. I can't deny it. Like as much as I am anti-toxicity. So yeah, there's definitely something there.
People typing "I hope we get cancer and die" after a StarCraft match is bad. I'm not saying that's good.
Right.
The Smash community is a great example though, where they're like, "Where you at? Where you at? Where
Yeah,
you
yeah,
at?"
yeah.
Like yelling at the on the stage. Like that's a totally different mindset. There's like, okay, well, that's actually them being competitive and shit talking the other person.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I feel like we're almost leaning toward too much of a PC culture. You're gonna get canceled. Everything has to be whitewashed. Don't do anything like remotely related to shit talking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there needs to be a better balance of punishing the toxicity somehow. When a girl talks in Overwatch and
Yeah.
two people start to flame her, okay, well, I choose to be one of those people that like steps up and says, "Shut the fuck up! Like, go do something
Mm-hmm.
else."
Right.
Like I try to combat it in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't fix it. That's not a fix for it. But like more people
Right.
need to do that.
Yeah.
Just because you're a female playing games, that turns somebody away. Okay, there can be a competitive smack talking is a better word I should be using here. Smack talking your opponent back and forth, and also like, hey, that was a really nice shot. If I'm 1v1ing a Widowmaker, like there's a decent level of like back and forth there without being completely like
Mhm.
let's be total a-holes to everybody. No,
Right.
that's not what we need to do. Like, come on. Can we just be like humans about this? Like,
Right. Yeah, totally. So shifting gears a little bit, I've been like so into these rabbit holes that like I want to just like have philosophy hour with you about like the overall landscape of gaming, right? But I want to bring it back to sort of the subject of you because there's so much there that's interesting. Um, One thing that I'm curious along these lines is like, you're at the point now where you've done these huge events, right? You've had the conversations with these huge personalities and even, the folks on the business side of, the gaming, companies, developers and whatnot that are putting these things on. How has that been for you to transition from like a dude who's a fan, right? Who's like hanging out in In-Control's chat, and it's like you kind of said it, right? You're like, I've been aware of him for a long time. He became aware of me by me hanging out in the chat, right? Like, what has that transition been like? Has it gone to the point where it's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna meet, somebody huge and it's just whatever because this happens to me now? Or like, is it still weird?
a little bit of both. Like, there was this point in time where I sat down, looked at myself, was like, today, I'll tell you a funny story about day 9 in a minute. Today, I get to talk with In Control and Artosis on a regular basis. And today I talk with Artosis on a pretty like 2 or 3 times a week, easily, if not
Mm-hmm.
more,
Sure.
basis about like several things. And it's like, wow, I, it's like a little bit of a fan moment. Like, what's happening with
Mm-hmm.
this? And now, like, I don't know how to phrase this without coming off as like a humble brag or a boast or whatever. But like now, because I do Pylon Show, like I contact a lot of these people regularly that are like nice and big or decent sized content creators. When I used to be a fan
Mm-hmm.
of all these people,
Yeah,
where it's
yeah.
like now I'm kind of like running a show with like a lot of them connected. So it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely lost a little bit of its fanboyish moment, but I still have plenty of those moments where it's like, that was awesome. Like I get to like this is pretty good life. At the
Yeah.
same time, like the overarching long term aspect of this, like StarCraft's not something that's gonna support me alone. Like I was talking about
Mm-hmm.
this on Pilot Show the other day. I had a segment for like 8-9 minutes where I tried to outline the future of what's going on, and it's like most
Mm-hmm.
of the StarCraft work. If I look at an hourly rate of something,
Mm-hmm.
StarCraft, most of it tends to be passion work, not something that's like
Mm. Yeah.
uh, paying the bills and paying rent all the time. It helps, but that's I can't put all my eggs in that basket. So
Sure. Yeah.
building PCs on the side, stream consultant. Hey, you need help with OBS. What's most people are very unaware of like how much power it exists
Mm.
inside OBS and what they can do. Showing
Yeah.
those people tire me for that stuff. Come on, give me a ring, buzz me somewhere. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's easy, and like I don't have to charge them much, and they get a huge benefit experience. Um, I started a podcast with Sal. I don't know how we'll monetize that, but like that's more of fun than
Mm-hmm.
monetization thing. So
I love
working on
that.
that.
Oh, it's so
Like
good.
a whole bunch of things have happened the last couple of weeks, so it's not on any podcast platforms or YouTube yet. But the first 3 are edited, and we're gonna have the rest up in the next week or so.
Oh,
So
I gotta get it. I think I've only watched 2 of them. I'm behind. I gotta
yeah,
get back to it, man.
it's all good.
If you
What was the
haven't
question?
seen
Did
it,
I totally lose it?
no, you got the question, but let me
Okay.
just sidebar it. If you have not seen what he's doing with Puppetry, go watch that right now. Pause this and come back because it is that good. Like, and the dynamic between the two of you, I love it. I love everything about it. I can't even say enough good things. Um, but yeah, the original question was just about, are you still starstruck? Is it normal? Has it lost its appeal? And it sounded like your
Oh
answer is kind of
yeah.
like it's become normal, but you still have this appreciation for it, but it's not like full fanboy kind of thing. Yeah. So I'm
Right.
still
The fanboy thing tends to be more in person.
mm-hmm. For me, I have this tiny like 1% dose of what it's probably like for you, right? Because I get to do these interviews, right? And for me, it's still the fanboy thing. I'm just like, oh, I get to talk to this person today, and I get to ask them stuff, and they're just gonna answer me for like an hour and a half. It's so fun. Like, and it's a little bit like I don't know. I guess I probably should have known that I would have fun doing this. The BlizzCon where I met you, which was, gosh, what, 2.5 years, the last in-person one, right? It's like a long time ago now, but it feels like
Yeah,
not that long, weirdly.
feels like an
Um,
eternity.
yeah, but I'm sitting down, I'm talking to these people, and I'm like, oh wait, I could just like talk to you, and you'll just like answer me and stuff. Like, I remember like literally there was a moment that BlizzCon where I sat down at a table and like Artosis is like, hey, can I sit down? I'm like, yeah, you could sit here, Artosis. Like, and then
I
Tasteless walks by,
remember
he's like,
that.
hey, can I sit here? I'm like, yep, you're allowed to sit here. Like, let's clear some room for that. It's just so weird to me. Like, but they're just, they're such chill dudes, and I think a lot of people in the StarCraft scene are that. But
hmm
kind of pulling one of the other threads that you kind of left me there, this idea of, StarCraft is very much like a passion lord thing, and you can take the edge off the bills with that, but you're having to do these other things. Does that feel fine for you to be kind of like, running these sort of different silos of businesses where it's like, I can do some stream consulting, I can build a PC, I can get hired out to do some, sort of corporate stream consulting kind of thing. I can, do all these different jobs. Is that fun? Do you like managing all that, or is it like utter chaos for you?
Um, I kind of live in utter chaos, and I have for a while. It's kind of a decent way to be able to keep me busy. So I don't know that I want a full 9 to 5 job that only does one thing. Like I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather do a couple of things, but I don't want to do too many things. If I do
Yeah.
too many things, stuff starts to slip through the crack. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
doing consulting or managing these various things or running podcasts, one thing you don't want to have happen is for stuff to fall through the crack and you're the one responsible for stuff not coming about.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of came a little bit to a head over the last little bit when I had some family stuff over the past month where I needed to go
Mm-hmm.
out of town and some stuff didn't happen because I'm the only one
Yeah.
that's there making it happen, which
Mm-hmm.
is a weird feeling. But like, sure, I'd rather have uh, maybe a little bit more redundancy, but I don't want to be completely tied to one single job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I want to keep doing a couple different projects though. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting notion, right? Where it's like, part of what you're able to sell is this person who has a high degree of mastery in a lot of areas. Is like, I'll be the guy that makes the problems go away for you, right? Like
yep,
in not like a universal sense, but like in a pretty big sphere, right? You're like, I can build the computer, I can figure out how to like schedule the show, I can run the show, I can do all the audio, I can do all the video, I can do all the ob settings. Like, there's a lot of stuff, right? And
tell you what
kind of the
camera to
flip.
buy, what microphone to buy, fix your
Yeah.
microphone settings. Like it's a big discipline.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've always loved about this sort of medium, is that there is so much to it. The flip side of that is if you are the guy, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got to do some family stuff. It's like, well, now what, right? Do you like have a little nerd apprentice running around who could be your backup? Like, what's what's the solve there? Because on the one hand, it's like you're trying to find enough stuff and cram it into your life to pay the bills, and you're sort of selling the expertise and the I'll make the problems disappear thing. You can't really like have a partner because then you're both just overworked, right? It's like, yeah, that's a hard problem. Huh. No fun. Definitely no fun.
It's definitely a challenge, but scheduling things out far enough tends to fix a decent amount of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems smart. So we've talked a bit about your current projects, right? So obviously Pylon Show is ongoing. You've got your podcast with Uppetry. You've got these various businesses that you're running. Are there any that we didn't touch on that you're allowed or able or want to talk about?
Um, I do. I don't know how much of this is promotion of the other thing or ammo for questions, but feel free to take it as
Sure, yeah.
however. I started a podcast with Cats, but I'm not on camera. He interviews various people, and he's interviewed Artosis, a PhD, not maybe it wasn't a PhD, two different scientists,
Mm-hmm.
Carol Baskins from Tiger King. Like he's had a decent amount of guests,
Yeah.
and that's going to continue for a little while, and I get to be production for that. Production for that includes helping him come up with the guests, maybe topics to talk about him with. He does more of that stuff on the fly. Seems to be most comfortable there.
Yeah.
Post-production of the video and the audio, publishing it. Alleluia TV helps me with timestamps for many of these. Neuro D&D. Neuro has a D&D group with Apop and Pig and Ash. And they do that every other Thursday. Unless Pig happens to stream for like 30 days straight, in which case we'll just take a month off or two. But
Unbelievable, man.
Pig get all the cameras at his like a, you know how he was going around his house and like everywhere he went there was a different camera.
Yeah.
And like those, so like I actually helped his wife get all of that. Dot, who's an amazing part of how that all happened. I helped her get acquainted with that system and like help get all those links. So they're static links for some of these cameras to where it'll always be the same thing. No matter how many times you start it or restart it, the same link will be encrypted and be there. So I helped her set up a lot of that stuff. So they gave me a nice shout out at some point during the stream, which was like, aw. But yeah, there's trying to think of like something that might be new or exciting that isn't public. I guess a lot of it has to do with my own stuff. I never really streamed too much. I like always helped other people stream. So the next year or so, I'm going to be diving into that and like actually selling myself, which I generally tend to do a bad job of like streaming myself or saying, hey, hire me for this. Do you want to run a podcast? Do you want to run a D&D thing? Hire me as a consultant to help you get set up. I need to do more of that. And then stream myself just playing games. I don't usually play a lot of games as much as I used to. It tends to be work, so I need to make time to stream and play games. And then as long as I'm playing the game, I might as well stream it. So I need to like, work on some of that. Some of the other stuff that's happening that's in the works tends to be like nothing people that watch gaming or StarCraft content would be necessarily interested in. Of like working for companies that do production events, or maybe they will. I don't know, but we'll see. There's not too much just exciting. It's like mostly Pylon show stuff that's coming up that I'm excited about for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Next week's gonna be a relay race, 3-3-3 relay race. We're gonna have 2 teams of 3 each with 3 casters. So 3 casters go ham like Korean style. You know, like on GSL where you see the 3 Korean casters all going at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna try something like that, but then 2 teams of 3 where each of the teams will have like a Terran, a Protoss, and a Zerg, but they'll be playing one race. So they agree upon a race, and then they all play it together. But they only get 2 minutes, and they get 2 minutes of control, and then it goes to the next person. And they get to, doesn't matter what's happening, doesn't matter if they're under attack or attack. They have to give up control, next person takes over. So every 2 minutes, they cycle, and then they'll play each other, and then we'll see how that goes. And then we're going to have another micro tournament coming up. We possibly maybe have Cats interviewing David Kim, kind of like he interviewed Raynor at some point in the future. That's up in the air. Nothing, no promises there, but Roddy's hosting an EU episode next week. EU time zone friendly. So yeah, lots of stuff coming.
Oh, that is good stuff. Katz is a fantastic interviewer too. Oh my gosh, like that. That is that's going to be one to catch. I mean, not to blast any of those because all of those ideas are amazing, right? But that one jumped out at me. I'm like, ooh, Katz is going to interview David Kim. Oh, gotta catch that, right? Like you gotta catch that one live, right? Like I might not be able to be awake at the right time for Roddy to do an EU stream. I catch that one, you know. But
that's like 10 a.m. or 9 a.m.
I could be awake for that. Okay, that's not that crazy. Okay, that's reasonable. I could catch that. But yeah, no, I mean,
we haven't actually got it down, so we'll see.
Sure.
To be determined.
So, I mean, does it ever get hard to come up with these ideas? Like you just laid it down. You're just like, here's 5 amazing episodes I'm about to do. And it's like, do you just get that for free? Does your brain just manufacture that? Or is that like hard?
No,
Okay.
It's kind of difficult. Apop is the one that came up with the relay race idea.
Okay.
He's got another one too that we might do at some point soon. Some of the other ones come through various ideas or suggestions from people, and some are
Mhm.
I have myself, and
Mhm.
some like or have been long-term plans. Like there's a list of about 20 pylon show ideas that I have
Mhm.
that Artosis and I and other people want to do at some point,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
various people want to interview. And a lot of the time, it comes down to scheduling and like
Mm.
getting that worked out. Um, Landing a couple sponsors for Pylon Show would be kind of big because it would enable me to devote more of my time to working on those projects and
Mm.
ideas, and
Yeah.
then I could schedule that out. Time is the biggest thing. It's the only thing you can't buy more of.
Mhm.
Buy yourself more health, or you can get brand new eyes. You can even reconstruct your asshole for $5,000. Apparently, is what I've heard on a Twitch stream. But like, you can't actually like buy more time. There's a
Yeah, yeah,
limit to how
yeah.
much time you have.
Mhm.
So, uh, being able to structure things around that is
Mm.
the biggest uh, thing that I need to work on better with. But I feel like
Mhm.
I'm better with it than most people, but I can be better. I can
Sure,
improve it a
yeah.
little bit more, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, 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 I love it. Oh man, that's so cool. I love that that was an Apop idea because he hinted when I interviewed him some time ago that he's like, I got a couple more up my sleeve. Like I hope they let me do it. So that's cool to hear that that has come to fruition or is about to. Um yeah, and I love that there's like this deep pool of shows that you want to do. I feel like I knew that because when you guys had me on for the book thing, you're like, yeah, we've been wanting to do this episode for a long time, but it was a matter of like fitting it in. I'm like, whoa, you guys like y'all have like a bank of episodes? Because like to me in my head, I don't know why. It's like an episode of the Pylon Show just exists that week. And I imagine that it just got made up like a couple days before that. But like obviously there's no way that it could work that way, right? Like of course there's a bank. But yeah, that was surprising to me as like
Sometimes the episodes happen or get planned within like 24 hours or less of them occurring.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's a cancellation and one of those
Mm,
can't happen. But it's like,
yeah.
okay, well, who's available? Who's free? What can we cover? Let's see
Mm-hmm.
how fast I can throw an episode together.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the case. Some of them have been planned for several months
Mm-hmm.
and come to fruition. It depends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that flexibility is a huge strength of yours and of the shows, I think, to be able to say, "Oh my gosh, this huge thing happened yesterday." And we would be crazy to not cover it. So we're just going to bump this episode and the people who we work with are cool. They're not going to be mad and then we're going to do this other thing like that I think has been a huge advantage because there have been some things that have happened where it's like, yeah, we need to talk about it, right? And for me, like and I've said this publicly in Twitch chats, Twitter or whatever, like it's like a sort of state of the community thing that we just get to have is like a big check-in, and you go to the chat and it's like everybody there is a streamer and stuff, or like a you know, famous Twitch troll that you see in every chat kind of thing, right? It's like I know all of these
Yeah.
people and we can all have our little weekly meeting and talk about whatever's going on. I love that so much about the Pylon. It feels like, you know, it really is that sort of hub of the community. Did you feel at any point that you kind of like, because you're talking about, you know, if I can get sponsors and this and that, like the things that would enable me to do, like, did you feel a transition to sort of like, I am kind of a business partner now in this enterprise that is the Pylon Show? Like, because, you know, there was this like slow morphing thing from like, hey, sometimes Jeff asks me a question or two about OBS or to build me a computer to like, now you're talking about like, oh, what things can the show do if I can get a sponsor? It's like somewhere in there you made this transition, but did you feel it really?
Uh, there are moments where I definitely felt it. There were definitely moments where I'm like, oh, I'm doing this thing that's way different. That's
Mm,
vastly different than what I expected to be doing
yeah.
several years ago. Usually the moment of it occurring and feeling like, oh, this is very different, usually occurs in the middle of doing it, of like
Mm,
not before or planned. So it'll be like um I don't know what a good example of this is, but like there's a very different idea where Jeff used to get the hosts, or Jeff used to get the guests,
mhm,
and he used to plan the episodes and topics, and Dan would chip in, and it became a thing where, well, Dan did some of that, and then it went back and forth, and then uh, like Patreon ideas, stuff like that, it slowly transitioned into, okay, now I'm running the business. Dan doesn't have enough time to do that. And so
Yeah.
now it's turned into, okay, well, Dan will host when he can. He needs to take a break for family stuff. Okay, well, instead of the Pilot Show not existing, now I'm basically running all the decisions of what's happening. I try to run as many of
Mhm.
those by Dan as I can, or that are important enough for him to do, and he usually has input one way or the other. But it's usually mostly
Mhm.
positive because I have a feeling for like where he wants the show to go. The show was
Yeah.
still his. It's not mine under any. I'm
Mhm.
not under any delusions that I own the show. Um, I do and tend to run most of the business aspect
Mhm.
of the day to day things, but that's just how it is. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
definitely has been a big transition. The moments where it's like, oh, you're doing like all of that in one day. That's all you. You have to
Yeah.
wake up tomorrow morning to do that. That's the moments where it's like, huh, this sure came a long way. I didn't expect this like
Right.
2 years ago, right? Like
Uh-huh.
that's the
Uh-huh.
moments when I feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I like this is the stuff that I was just so eager to get you on the show to talk about because like as a person who like just has like a finger dipped into this world kind of, right? Like I said, I get to do the interviews now and then with people and like you're doing this stuff every week, right? I'm very fortunate to have gotten as many guests as I have and stuff. Like I can only imagine like how cool it feels to get to do this stuff. And so like even just getting to chit chat about it is really fun to me. Um I know we've been going for an hour and I have other questions, so I'm gonna try to move us a little bit quicker because I've been blabbing a fair bit myself.
It should be good for another hour. So
Okay. I told you I wouldn't take that much of your time, so I'll try not to. But um so we talked kind of about current projects, and my gosh, you have a lot of them. And they're all really interesting and really cool. I'm curious to talk a little bit about where you see this going, right? Because the thing that stands out to me as we're chit chatting through these different topics is like, man, you have a lot of industry contacts now, right? Like you're a person who people know, certainly in the RTS space, right? And
mhm.
and I have long contended, and you always disagree, and you act humble about it when I say these outlandish things to you. Um, you know, I feel like people there should be more people who are more aware of you and what you've done in this scene and what your skill set is, and they should be fighting over you. I honestly think that. I am not blowing smoke. Like I really do think that. Um
Well, thank you.
yeah, for sure. Um so that makes me wonder though, right? Like, you're going, climbing with the frost giant folks, right? And that's a small tight-knit group of geniuses, right? Um like do you see really really cool amazing stuff in the future where now all of these people and they're aware that you're a person who will just get shit done, right? Like do you have like dreams or aspirations of like crazy outlandish amazing things you could do, or are you kind of already doing all of that?
Um, there'd be cool things I'd like to work with various people with.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that I like have a dream or like a long term huge goal. Sure,
Mhm.
owning a house and a family would be nice at some point. Let's make
Mhm.
this profitable enough so that I can like afford to have a kid in a hospital bill and a house, buy a
Mm.
house whenever I meet the right person or whatever long
Mhm.
term.
Mhm.
That seems to be about like the most long term. With this stuff, it's like, okay, well, let's find what is profitable enough now. Because like as much as I love StarCraft and working
Mhm.
production stuff, it also needs to be profitable and
Right.
making sure that like ends meet and everything is done and that I can build PCs for people when they ask. I can
Mhm.
consult. Making sure all that happens tends to be the focus at the moment.
Mhm.
When we list all the projects out in a row like this, it makes it seem like I'm doing a bazillion things. The D&D is only once every other week.
Mhm.
Cats might have a podcast once or twice a month, depending on his scheduling and stuff. He's moving right
Mhm.
now, so there won't be another podcast of his for a while. So
Mhm.
some of these things are there's a decent bit of time between them. So I
Mhm.
just need to make sure that my weekly schedule doesn't have stuff that overlaps. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so most of the podcasts or projects or shows tend to be on different days so that stuff doesn't overlap. If it does
Mm-hmm.
overlap, I can handle that easily, but I don't want to stack too much up at once. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like long-term stuff, maybe hosting a show or running live events when events get back at event venues like
Mm-hmm.
DreamHack again might be fun. Doing more like in-person event stuff
Mm-hmm.
is always challenging, but it seems to be that I would need to go work for a Riot or a Frost Giant
Mm-hmm.
or an EA for one of those things to happen. I don't know that
Mm-hmm.
I necessarily want to do that, or maybe I'll go try to get hired at a production company
Mm-hmm.
and just bring a shit ton of talent and skills with me and see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
For for this, it's just like a day by day thing and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. It's so interesting. I can definitely appreciate like being in that grind of like, I see sort of the glimmer of the profitability of this, and I love what I'm doing, but I gotta push it a little further because it's not quite comfortable yet. That seems to me like maybe not, the most comfortable place to be, but like certainly really, really interesting. And I can definitely appreciate being in that phase of life where you're like, all right, it's time to like kick ass and really build this thing up. And I'm going to kind of do, whatever I have to do. One of the things that stuck in my mind from sort of that night that I met you and we were chit chatting at BlizzCon is I can't remember if it was me or somebody else who was asking you like, how do you do so much? And you basically were like, yeah, I don't really need to sleep that much. Is that still the case? Are you still just running on like
Uh,
no sleep constantly?
I no, I get a decent amount of sleep. Last night I slept a good 10 hours actually, but like
Okay.
usually I only need like a good 6.5.
Okay.
And if I sleep too much, I get headaches or I'm a human that's built kind of different from most other humans, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like my sleep schedule has always been a little bit of a problem. It doesn't matter necessarily what medication I'm on or anything of
Mm.
those type of
Mm-hmm.
things, but I need to like keep a tight rein on it. So
Uh-huh.
I make the sleeping joke so much that it's become a little bit of a meme. But
Mm. Mm-hmm.
my parents had their own business, and in order to make something successful, you have to be hungry, you have to want it,
Mm.
and you have
Mm-hmm.
to chase that. Um, they wanted to make their business work so much so that when they went to train for their particular business that they ended up doing was there was 100 couples, and 5 years later there was only two couples that were still in business.
Wow.
My parents were one of those two couples. It's uh I don't know if you ever listened to some of like the motivational speakers that are Marine corporals or stuff like that, but they talk
Mm.
about like when the Marines are training, they try to get you to drop out of class as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing push-ups in the ocean where you can't breathe because like you have to
Mm-hmm.
wait for the next wave to come before you can catch your breath, and like
Mm-hmm.
you have to want it. You have to really want it. When you want success as much as possible,
Mm.
sometimes you'll go a night or two without sleep. That's when those
Mm-hmm.
things stack up. That's why I have these
Right.
things scheduled out on different days so that I don't have to do three shows in a day. Because that,
Mm-hmm.
as much as it seems to go super prepared, and the show's only 2 hours long, you're not aware of how much work goes into pre and post production, especially
Yep.
if you're a one man crew. That takes up a lot. Even if you
Mm-hmm.
have some people helping you, it's still a lot of work. You have to be in the right mental headspace for all of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily a 9 to 5 job that just like, oh, you get to knock off
Check
when
out. Yeah.
yeah. So like I make the sleep joke, but yes, I definitely do get enough sleep. There are times when I haven't, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing okay.
Yeah. So it's more tactical for you. It's like
Right.
I will make this sacrifice here and there to get the thing that I want because I'm hungry and because this is cool.
And I will catch up to sleep later. Sleep is very important.
Right.
Sleep
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
water.
Mm-hmm. I hear Neuro echoing off in the distance somewhere about it right now.
Hydro homies.
Oh man. So let's see. Another really kind of cool topic that I thought was worth touching on is you're sort of in an area where there are a lot of other people around in, sort of physical proximity to you. Like you mentioned the Frost Giant crew, right? You're able to like just go climbing with them or go, I know they do their what is it, like weekly hikes or whatnot. Like
Yeah,
you could go
on
do.
Sunday mornings. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other folks who I know are around. I don't know how much I should really say because I don't want to like, it's other people's information. I'm not trying to dox anybody. But there's a lot of folks around in sort of the area where you are. Is that something that you feel kind of gives you any kind of a boost or an edge? Is it just kind of nice? Does it impact you at
Well,
all?
COVID happened, so
Well, there's that.
it doesn't really feel like it's very beneficial at the moment with COVID
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
But the long term goal was to eventually move to California because a 2 hour drive to a lot of the places that I might be able to get work
Mm-hmm.
or would work with some of these people that might be around me in this section of California is way easier than I say 5 hour flight. Everybody knows it takes like an hour to get on the plane, go through security.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole day. Like flying across the
Yeah.
country takes a whole day.
Mm-hmm.
An hour to drive to or back from a thing is way easier to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not being near family is one of those things that's like, kind of sucks because most of my immediate family lives in South Carolina, but
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of relatives in California and some in Texas and stuff like that. So it's a toss up. It's
Mm-hmm.
I don't know currently. I think it's helped. It definitely has been a little bit of a help, but
Mm-hmm.
I think in the future or in the past before COVID, it would have helped a lot. But I moved right
Mm-hmm.
when COVID happened, so in the future it might pay off. But we'll
Sure.
see.
Well, if nothing else, you moved and got really, really awesome internet. So, I mean, that
Yeah,
was a good pre-COVID play at the very least.
yeah, that turned out to be a really good one. Thankfully, Google Fiber's in more places. Like they've rolled out a lot of it in Atlanta, so that might be a good spot to move at some point. Like Texas
Mm.
is booming with decent internet now. Like that, we're slowly, not nearly as fast as we should have. I'll rant about this for a whole 3 hours about infrastructure and why are the
Right.
backbone of what makes the internet in our country run now is data. Like if you watch Netflix, you play
Mm.
games, you do anything, you're consuming
Yeah.
data, and our infrastructure is just so behind. So
Mm-hmm.
finally, a little bit of yeeks, finally a little bit of infrastructure is catching up with that. So I have
Mm-hmm.
more places to potentially move in the future for some of
Mm-hmm.
that. So that's good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll be curious to kind of see how that does pan out for you, as you say, like, with kind of seeing the end in sight, hopefully here, knock on wood, with all the COVID stuff, right? That
Hmm.
that maybe some of those benefits will sort of kind of come to fruition. Another kind of interesting thread along these lines is sort of the nice Cobra house, right? For a lack
Oh,
of a
nice username as a
yeah.
roommate. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
not too
Uh-huh.
bad.
How has that been? Has it like,
It's been
I
really
feel like
chill.
you guys are both like that same kind of thing of like, oh yeah, he could just do whatever. Like he could just, you have a technical problem, he could figure that out. Like you guys both kind of have that thing. So when I heard that was happening, I just went, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Like I could totally see these two guys. Like, are you
Yeah.
are you working on stuff together, or is it totally siloed?
A little bit of both. Right now we're more back to being siloed because we just finished season 11 of ASL.
Mm-hmm.
For people who don't know, ASL decided to stop paying the English casters for casting ASL, which is Afrika StarCraft League,
Mm-hmm.
um, in for Brood War. And so Dan and Nick were like, "Okay, do you guys want to see us cast this? Okay, well, here's a Patreon. Go fund it." So they
Mm-hmm.
funded it. Turns out it's over 13, 12, I don't know, it's several $1,000s. So we edit that and do the post production for the video, the audio, and we actually built a server together. With like it's got a nice 8 hard drives in it with redundancies and everything. So now like our projects are stored there. ASL takes up a lot of data, and yeah, like we get to work together on a lot of fun stuff. And it's good to have like a roommate that's like into some of the technical stuff. So
Yeah.
we could both upgrade our work or talk on passions or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely a positive experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super cool. We didn't even touch on the ASL stuff, but yeah, I was, I guess, aware that like that must be a thing that you're working on or touching in some form, because like it's happening, and I know that it's a very complex sort of a product to throw together. I
We
am
became really
so
good at it really fast in like
I
19 episodes. Like,
yeah, I mean it kind of freaking dropped in you guys' lap, right? Where it's like,
yeah.
oh hey, this isn't happening, and it's like, oh, can we stop doing this in esports, where it's like, you think something's a thing and we just find out, yeah, no, it's not. Like, total like rug pulled out from under, the Brood War community. And it's like, what, y'all don't think Nick and Dan command an audience? Well, hello, look at the freaking Patreon that instantly funded, like, and yeah, okay, I'll get off my soapbox about that, but
In general,
um,
though, the StarCraft stuff, the reason that happens is the big people like Afrika are like, okay, well, StarCraft isn't getting as much funding or viewers as some of the other
yeah,
stuff. So it's slowly fading off. I'm
mm-hmm,
not saying it's dead. StarCraft is not dead. StarCraft
mm-hmm,
1 or 2 are not dead. I'm not saying that at all. But like I had a friend earlier last week who was like, "Oh, we missed you playing Call of Duty. Where were you?" And I was like, "Oh, I played Overwatch for the first time in a while." I was like playing Overwatch. He's like, "Oh, I thought Overwatch was dead." And I'm like every single if the game has
yeah,
been released, it's dead.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
as a heads up.
right,
Frostgiant's gonna launch a game in 3 years. The day later, it'll be
dead,
dead. It's just
yeah,
like how like okay, the inner perception of this. This is why like some companies are just like, yeah, no, we're not gonna tell you the player base of our figure numbers because like it
mm-hmm,
drops a little bit or goes up. Like nobody pays attention to it going up. It
right,
just dies.
yeah,
Apex Legends releases a brand new pack. More people are playing it than ever. It's number one on Twitch for like 2 weeks straight. They have arena mode. Like a whole bunch of new heroes drop. It's like 3 days later, somebody's like, "Oh, Apex, I heard that was dead." It's
dead,
like,
yeah.
okay, like, okay, that's a whole other side rant about people's perception of stuff. If it's not number
Yeah.
one on Twitch, it must be a dead game. Okay, great. Like,
hmm Meanwhile, the other day I see Ninja playing Final Fantasy 11 on a private server, right? So you want to talk about
mhm.
games not being dead, okay? Like he's got like 3,000 people watching him.
What about Grand
Oh,
Theft Auto? Like, it sunk
yeah.
so low, and there were still people playing it for years and years.
Yep.
Then they started this Pixel 3.0 server, and now it's all over Twitch, and the biggest people on Twitch are playing it, and they're
Yeah.
role playing along with this stuff. Like,
hmm
it's a stable game that's been out for a long time. Most of the games that people are playing for a long time have been out for over 2 or 3 years.
hmm
Like in many cases, like a decade. Like
Right. Yeah, and I mean this, I'm feeding you. You said you didn't want to have this rant, but I kind of want to have this rant too, so
oh,
I'm feeding your
fine,
energy.
go for it.
But
Let's do it. Let's do it.
it's it's interesting because like, the games being old doesn't mean they're not good, right? Like
hmm
and not to say that there aren't
In many
new
cases,
good
they're more
games, like
polished.
right, yeah. And there's a lot of things that have deviated from that formula for the sake of deviating from it that aren't good. Not to say there aren't new games that are good, right? Like Apex exists, and that kind of came out of nowhere and is good, right? Like there, and it
Valorant, solid.
yeah, sure. Um, so not to say, I don't want to like put on the boomer hat and just be like, oh, all the new stuff sucks, right? Because that's not true either. But just because something's old or just because not as many people have interest doesn't mean that it sucks, right? So
hmm
yeah, I think that that's a really interesting thing, and I kind of keep waiting for a studio to figure out that like you could literally take your exact same thing, right? And you can just be like, we're going to make a new engine and we're not changing anything, right? Like when Riot figures out that they can make League of Legends 2 and it's literally just a new graphics engine and they don't change the rules, right? Then all of a sudden we're going to have something finally that looks like the NFL or whatever other major sport, right? Because we don't have that right now. What we have is something that's trending more towards the fighting game community, right? Where it's like, oh, you're a fighting game player? Well, guess what? You're learning a new game every like 6 months, right? Because that's just it's just how the wheel turns over there. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I
What
really, I
about
don't know.
Valve? We have Counter
Yeah,
Strike.
yeah,
We
that's a
have
great example.
technically Counter Strike Global Offensive is Counter Strike 2 because
Mm-hmm.
Counter Strike 1.6 was the first Counter Strike, and it was
Yeah,
so like the joke is that Valve can't count to 3, so we'll never get Counter Strike 3. Okay, we have Dota 2. Where's Dota 3? Like these games have been out
right.
forever. Okay, well part of the problem is like how does monetization work? Is everybody
Mm-hmm.
just going to say goodbye to their skins? Like at one point in
Mm.
time, I sold it all, but like I had through gifting, wins through tournaments, a little bit of investing of my own money, I
Mm-hmm.
had like over $4,000 in skins in Counter
Oh
Strike,
wow.
which made kind of sense because like I played it a lot, and like
Mm-hmm.
some people gift you skins. You win big tournaments, and they're like, oh, you get paid in like skins or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like, and then they accrue value. They accrue value, and they go higher
Yeah.
and higher. Okay, so what happens if Valve make Counter Strike 3? Do you get
Mm-hmm.
to take your inventory from Counter
Yeah.
Strike 2? People have a lot of money invested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're gonna be like, okay, no, my value's here. Why should I go play that game?
Mm-hmm.
Like, does my inventory carry over? What if they have different guns?
Right.
Like,
Now
there's a
what?
whole
Yeah.
bunch of questions. Yeah, like League
Uh-huh.
of Legends, they make League of Legends 2. How many people have invested whatever the blue essence and whatever their form of monetization? I forget
Yeah, yeah.
what their gold is called, but
Right.
people have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is in there. What happens to all that?
Yeah.
Like, they kind of shoebox themselves a little bit, but like
Mm-hmm.
somebody needs to try and figure it out. Like
Right.
somebody will eventually, but who knows?
Somebody will. There's too much money to be made by figuring it out, right? Like, because the fact remains that Melee is still a good game and it's compelling, and that will never
Hmm.
change. Brood War is still a good game and it's compelling, and that will never change. Like, these are facts of the universe, right? Like, these good games are not good. It's an immutable fact that Melee is a good game, right? So like, and Nintendo will never do it. So this is, just it's crazy talk, but like, imagine you get Melee with good graphics instead of, we're gonna make Smash Brothers 9 and we've diluted the gameplay and everything is shit, right? But it's pretty now, right? Like, imagine you get Melee with good graphics, right? It's just it's a different animal entirely. But you're right. There's a ton of questions like around just sort of the monetization piece that, yeah, it's weird. One kind of just fun question that I think we would be remiss if we did not cover. Everybody always doesn't understand how your name is stylized. And I want to give you a platform right now to just set the record straight. Can we talk about Cobra Venom?
Okay, so sure. Um, Back in Crisis Wars, like Crisis Wars is actually like a multiplayer add-on that finally had multiplayer officially, but we were playing Crisis 1
Mm-hmm.
when it had multiplayer. Like there was private servers that we played on, and it was
Yeah.
like really good, high, fast, like headshot only. People had nano suits. It's like Crisis Wars used to be the engine they used to test new computers in. Can it play Crisis was the thing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I played back then when I played. There was a clan, and they had Saltwater Dave was the odd one out, but there was a pig, a toad, um, and I forget the third brother's name, but there's three brothers who started this clan, and they all had names of animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like when I joined, it was like, well, my playstyle's kind of always been the same of like a sniper rifle.
Mm.
If you're the type of person who's like, I'm gonna walk down this position or like camp a spot and not really move around the map too much. I love to run around the map. And so like if you're
Mm.
camping in one spot and not like moving too much, I'm just gonna come by and pop because you're like predictably in the location.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like all the other duels that I became famous for of like back and forth with high skill players, and we'd
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do the whole dance. I became famous for being the guy that would just come by and whack you with a sniper rifle because you're in the same spot. People got salty about that apparently.
Yeah.
Because that shouldn't be the case. It should have defender's advantage, right?
Right.
So they were like, well, you're like a snake. You're always just striking super fast.
Waiting to
Is the
pounce.
idea,
Yeah.
right? And my style in Counter Strike was always there's the holding the op at a spot, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hold this angle with the spot. I didn't really like doing that, even though it was sometimes required. I like to be like let me open a site with an op, just jump on
Mm.
site. I'm gonna if I can get one or two kills, my team will like finish up the rest. I like to
Mm-hmm.
be the strike first player. So
Mm.
like that was where Cobra was suggested to me as like a find a snake name. And
Mm-hmm.
at the time, my there was like a ruling that came out during the government a while back that was in the medical industry, and it had
Mhm.
impact upon like how stuff in the industry was affected, and it was the Consolidated Omnibus Reconciliation Act.
Mm-hmm.
And So like it was referred to as Cobra because nobody's gonna say Consolidated Omnibus Reconciliation Act.
Sure.
It had an update to it or whatever. And so like
Yeah.
that had a little bit of playing into the name.
Mm-hmm.
And the Venom came in where it was like, well, there's needs to make it a little bit unique. I was a teenager at this time trying to come up with a name that was unique. Well, they said I
Yeah.
was like, don't like take a duel with Cobra when you're in a match because he will like come back to hunt you. To like if he loses the 1v1, he'll come back to your spot and like want to have a reduel. Like I was like aggro that way. So it became like I was vengeful. So it was like, well, how does Cobra Vengeful doesn't work, but Cobra Venom? So like that had a little bit of play in it. And then so I put a 7 in there. So like if you type at the time I did it and I typed CobraVe7nom7 into Google, that was the only thing that came up.
Mm-hmm.
There was 0 other hits. And I'm like, okay, now I have a unique brand name. Like I understood this at like a young age of like whoever your player, so many names that are running around like that's an ace. Which ace is it? Well, the other ace that player was named Ace. The ace that I got into a lot of duels with was A7E. Spell like every other letter he put a 7, like A7C7E7 or whatever. And so like the first time we met each other online, it was like, who the hell puts a 7 in their name? And then we laughed for like an hour. Like
that's funny.
Because we both had it. And it was just like it was a good time. But that's about how it came to be. And then there was a guy in Battlefield 3, Battlefield Bad Company 2. At the time, I apparently pissed this guy off so much. He ran the server, and I was obeying all the rules in the server, but there was something about like I somehow pissed him off. The squad I was playing with was just like dominated the server, and we kept switching teams to like keep it a little bit balanced. We would take all the flags on one side, and then our squad would switch sides to the other team, and then like retake all the have to refight over all the ground. So we made it interesting for ourselves. Well, he didn't like us and banned us, and then like, okay, fine, we'll go play a different server, whatever. But he was apparently adminning 3 or 4 different servers. So when the next Battlefield came out, this guy and I had gone back and forth. I was as nice as could be with him. I just like obeyed all the rules, whatever. But fine, he's gonna be an asshole. He took my name and like tried to register it for the next Battlefield that came out.
God.
And it turns out like it was like, oh, your recovery for this email address is, and it had part of his player name. And I was like, oh, this guy's just being an asshole about this. Fine. Yeah. So I added a 7 to the end of it and then registered it on the new Battlefield, and that's how I got the second 7. Now it's the 2 fangs.
How funny. So I knew the part about the 2 fangs, but that was the only piece of the story that I knew. Man, that is a fantastic story. This is okay. And I don't mean to fanboy, but this is my favorite thing about doing interviews is there's so much interesting shit that like nobody has ever pulled that story out of you, and that's a freaking great story. Like
I've told it a couple times, but it's kind of rare. Yeah.
Okay, like I guess I've heard the 7s thing. I don't know, maybe I just missed it. Yeah, that's so fascinating. So was there ever any follow up with this dude, or is he just out there hating you somewhere?
Nah, he's probably forgotten about me. I don't know. I don't care. I don't really. But I mean, he got so butthurt about it. He just But that's how the second 7 came to be added. Yeah.
That's so interesting, man. Oh goodness. Well, I don't know that I'm gonna do any better than that story. Yeah, is there anything else that we should shout out or promote, or is there anything that I should have asked you and didn't that you want to talk about before we close out?
I guess we didn't really ever say the name of some of the podcasts that we recommended. I made a mental note of that earlier because you're like, hey, watch Cobra's podcast or watch Katz's podcast, but you didn't say the actual name of them. So for the people who are wondering, Artosis actually helped Katz come up with the name, but it's called My Pod Cats, and it's CATZ. Yeah, so it's My Pod Cats. So that's how you find that one. The one with Sal is Almost Essential Podcast, and it's not on any podcast platforms as of the time of this recording, but in the next week or so, it'll be up. Yeah. As far as questions you didn't ask, but maybe you should have. I don't know.
Nobody ever bites on that one.
Can't really think of anything at the top of my head. The only thing came to my head was like start to like flip the tables and ask you questions, but like that's not really the point of this, so I don't know. Like, has anybody ever asked you how you come up with your name?
Yeah, but it's not a good story. I'll answer it just because you
Okay.
asked. So I
Sure.
was playing an MMO. I was playing Shadowbane, old like PvP MMO. And the nature of that game was you
Mhm.
leveled up quite quickly because the PvE sucked. So they were just like, okay, we'll just turn the EXP rate up, and will have a lot of characters leveled. And so you would kind of play with your group of people in your guild or whatever, and you would kind of design a character spec around running with like 9 other people, kind of thing. And so it would be this thing of like, okay, this weekend we're all doing channelers or whatever, and everybody would level up an elf channeler because that was the new hotness that week in the meta. And so you would just like go from 0 to 60 in like a day or whatever. So you had to name all these characters over and over and over and over again. And I like just ran out of names for myself. It's like, all right, whatever. It's this like dumbass elf channeler. I don't even want to do this spec. I think it's stupid. Like this meta is going to be over in 3 days. But I guess this elf needs to have like a lot of vowels in his name. And I was playing with like letters and a stack of CDs on my desk, and that was how I got it. It was never meant to be pronounced. I didn't think I was going to get stuck with it, but we ended up running that spec forever, and I got called the name enough times that I guess this is who I am now. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. It's horrible from a branding perspective. My own girlfriend can't pronounce it, so there's that.
So the other question I've had from a production side is you have a green screen, but you always
Yeah.
filter it out and just put black. Is this like a design aesthetic choice, or like you just don't have anything to put back there, or like
Yeah.
you could do all sorts of crazy stuff
Right. Yeah. This is a great
and
question too.
put like random stuff behind you. You could get all fancy with it, like,
Yeah.
but you just pick black. Why?
It's a it's a design aesthetic choice that I got backed into because I made this interview overlay prior to getting the green screen. So it was like it used to just be like my bedroom at my old place. And I just haven't gotten around to like redoing overlays in a way that I think is compelling for interview content or whatever. So yeah, that's how I arrived
Gotcha.
there.
Okay, fair enough. Now I have an
Yeah.
answer.
Yep. There you go. Well, I mean, we had to get you something. I've taken up a ton of your time, and as you mentioned, you don't have a lot of it. So, yeah.
It's all
Really,
good.
really
I
appreciate you.
appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Cobra. And yeah, at some point here, we're not too far away from one another. So, love to have you and some of the other folks that are up there down for like StarCraft barbecue or something along those lines over the summer. Whoever's vaccinated feels comfortable and whatnot. But yeah, we can obviously talk about that offline. But yeah, let's I'm gonna hide you from the people. I guess we get off the
Yeah, it'd
call,
be
and I'll
fun.
come back, say bye to everybody, and probably drop a raid. But thank you once again, Cobra. I will of course get all of your socials and whatnot posted, and all the relevant good stuff like that. And yeah, we'll get it on YouTube in like, I don't know, a day or so.
My pleasure.